Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm glad to have with me for a second time Robert Carrington. He's the president and CEO of Newrange Gold Corp. And Newrange trades in Toronto under the symbol NRG. You can buy it down here in the U.S. as I have under the symbol CMBPF, 65.2 million shares outstanding. Earlier today, when I checked it, it was at 41 cents in U.S. money, giving it a market cap around 27 million. The company's primary exploration project is the Pamlico Gold Project near Hawthorne, Nevada, located in the Walker Lane Gold Trend. And I added this company to my newsletter back on April 28th at 23 cents. So we've had a good run already. So the big question in my mind as an owner of these shares is, where to from now? From this point forward. So thanks for joining me again, Robert.
Jay, thanks for having me today.
So that's the question I have on my mind. Should I buy this stock now? Should I dump it? I mean, I've had a big run. Or are we just seeing the beginning of something? And I guess certainly, what excited me were some really blockbuster headline numbers on drill results and channel samples and so forth earlier on. So for the sake of those who may not have heard you the first time back on August 22nd when you were with me, tell us again what attracted you to the Pamlico Gold Project?
Well, the Pamlico property is located in the central portion of the Walker Lane, which is truly one of the world's largest gold trends. It's one of the three big gold trends in Nevada, alongside of the Carlin and the Battle Mountain trend. The Pamlico property sits, as I said, centrally in the Walker Lane near the intersection of the Pancake Range Liniment with the Walker Lane. Some of the major mines along the Walker Lane include the Comstock Lode, Goldfield, Tonopah, and a host of others. Other mines along the Pancake Range Liniment include Bodie, California, Aurora, Nevada, Borealis, the Pediment, and, of course, Round Mountain, which sits there with 22 million ounces of past production plus current reserves. The geology at Pamlico is somewhat similar, actually, to Round Mountain. Both of them are volcanic-hosted epithermal gold systems with low-grade disseminated mineralization that is, in turn, cut by extremely high-grade mineralization, multiple-ounce gold intercepts. Of course, that's what's given rise to the spectacular intercepts that you referred to just now. Going forward, the drilling program, the Phase 2 drilling program, will kick off tomorrow. The drill rig is on site. The crews are currently assembling all of the equipment and everything. We will be drilling by this time tomorrow. And we're going to be focusing on the area around the R holes 8 and 10, the Merritt decline, and in the Merritt high-grade zone. There's quite a bit, actually, of unexplored ground in there, and our structural interpretation indicates that there should be additional mineralization in that. It should be a very exciting program. We're starting to see a fairly cohesive body of mineralization related to low-angle structures that are being penetrated by high-angle northwest trending structures that are in general related to the Walker Lane. We're really focusing on this area because we know a lot about it, but certainly by no means everything. We plan on using this as a guide so that we can build a predictive model to go evaluate the many other volcanic-hosted targets on this very large property. Right now, Pamlico is about a little over 2,200 hectares. It covers both volcanic-hosted mineralization and sediment-hosted gold mineralization. We're focusing on the volcanic-hosted mineralization right now because we see some extremely promising grades. It's multiple-ounce gold is not uncommon in the system at Pamlico, and we believe that grade can cover a myriad of sins. And obviously, a lot of the high-grade stories are the ones leading the way out of the doldrum of the last few years.
Well, it sounds to me like you have prospects for some really high-grade stuff and then maybe some lower-grade dissemination in between the higher-grade intervals,
yes.
Possibly?
Yeah, that's absolutely what we're looking at.
Okay, you added some claims, 111 new claims actually on June 26th. So does that have to do with the possible extension of mineralization? And if so, can you give our listeners an idea of what the size of the target is that you're looking at least as far as you know at this stage?
Well, the target that we're looking at there is actually, there's two targets. Mm-hmm. One is, of course, an extension of the sediment-hosted mineralization that we've seen elsewhere on the property. The sediment-hosted mineralization lines up along a northwest trending structural zone where we see a lot of jasperoid silica replacing carbonate sediments. And typically we're seeing gold mineralization along that trend in the range of a half a gram to as high as 5 grams gold. Mm-hmm. We acquired those claims to protect ourselves, as I said in the one news release, to give us room to move. And then there's the airborne magnetometry that we just completed. We don't even have a full interpretation of it yet. Suggests that there may be a porphyry system at depth under the property. Now, the porphyry itself may not be economic, but many of the porphyry systems do have epithermal gold systems and sediment-hosted style systems associated with them. So as that picture started to come together, we wanted to make extra sure that we had all the ground that we really wanted around us. We didn't want to suddenly wake up one morning and realize we had a neighbor that had the ground we should have had.
Yeah, indeed. Smart move then, for sure. Just to let our listeners know, just to mention some of these high-grade intercepts that were reported, on June 19th, you reported 6.1 meters grading 97, almost 98 grams per ton. And on July 5th, you reported 4.6 meters grading 43.8 grams of gold per ton. And then a channel sample earlier than that was 104.75 grams per ton over 1.5 meters. I guess, those are spectacular, no question about it. But it's always a question of continuity, isn't it, Robert? And, I guess you just started. When did you start exploring this project? It had some work done on it before, for sure, but when did you start with Newrange on it? Well,
okay, I first started looking at the property around 2009, 2010 with the prior owner. Uh-huh. He was a friend of my father's and had always wanted to have his own mine, and he had been very successful in the construction industry. So he pulled about almost $4 million out of his hip pocket and executed a very sizable drilling program, and then turned around and developed a 600-foot decline with all the infrastructure on the property. Unfortunately, his health failed due to a medical procedure he had to have done, and he ultimately passed away. And we were able to acquire the property just before his passing. I had been in touch with them periodically during the time when they were drilling and developing the decline, so I knew what was going on. And when the property came on the market, we were able to execute quite rapidly since a lot of the classic due diligence had already been done inadvertently. We signed the property, as you know, in July of 2016. And so our real physical efforts on the property started shortly after that. We started compiling all the old data, mapped the decline in detail for the first time, and subsequently did the saw-cut channel sampling. And that was the first time the decline had ever even been sampled. Those fairly spectacular high-grade saw-cut channel samples that we announced were the first time that decline had ever been sampled systematically.
Oh. Wow! And were you seeing evidence of dissemination there as well?
There is. The decline contains about a 75-meter interval in there that will average 2.5 to 3 grams gold. So So our low-grade dissemination isn't as low-grade as most people's low-grade. We benefit substantially from a lot of stockwork-style mineralization in a very favorable volcanic host rock.
So, Robert, what do you expect to achieve with this drill program, Phase 2? What do you expect to accomplish with that? And how soon might we see some results coming from that, some assays?
The Phase 2 program, as I say, will start tomorrow. The assay labs are kind of backed up right now, so it'll probably be about a 20-day turnaround to get our first assays back. And then once that starts, we'll see a fairly steady stream of assays. Highlights of this program or key objectives are to explore for additional mineralization in and around the area of the decline, our holes 8, 10, and the area in between all that. Importantly, we're also going to drill at least 2 deep stratigraphic test holes. These holes are specifically designed to test for additional units of favorable volcanic rock at depth. There are more and less favorable units on the property, and what we're hoping to do is identify another favorable unit that will host similar mineralization to that we've announced in our Phase 1 program. The stratigraphic test holes may not necessarily hit mineralization in that unit because we really don't know how deep that unit will be, but as we get a better handle on where that unit might be depth-wise, then we can start targeting many of the structures that we're already hitting and projecting them down to come up with additional ounces in another favorable horizon.
Well, it's certainly, I guess it's going to take quite a bit of work to get a sense of the the extent of mineralization, continuity of it, as well as the geometry, the shape of the deposit, and so forth. Go ahead.
It is, but one of the reasons we're focusing on this so intensely is we more or less know what we're doing here. By focusing on this, we're going to develop a very detailed predictive model that we can then take to other parts of the property. There are at least 5 very, very similar centers of mineralization elsewhere on the Pamlico property. And rather than go out and just wildly wing drill holes around like some other people have done on the property, by focusing on this, we can then take that predictive model and accomplish the same results with a lot less drilling and a lot lower expense.
Yeah, well, so I guess probably in a couple of months or so, we should start to get some feedback from this drill program, right?
Yes, I would hope that within 20 to 25 days we'll start seeing some feedback, and we'll be announcing the results as they come out.
How well funded are you, Robert, to take you through this, and then are you going to need to raise some money next year?
We'll almost certainly raise money next year. We're well enough funded this year. We have $1 million in the treasury right now, and we have the ability to bring in roughly $2 million more without any trouble.
These are relatively shallow holes, except you did mention you're doing some deep holes. How deep would they be? And how many meters do you expect to drill in Phase 2?
Yeah, the 2 deeper stratigraphic test holes will probably be about 1,500 feet.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So they're moderately deep holes. The key things that we're looking for, we're obviously going to try and spot those holes so they will serve as a good exploration hole in the shallow near surface zone where we see all of the current gold. It will hopefully identify other favorable stratigraphic horizons in the volcanic pile there. And the holes are designed to be deep enough to test the redox boundary. In other words, the boundary between the zone of oxidation and unoxidized material. And in Pamlico, we're blessed with a very deep zone of oxidation.
Good.
Where it seems that the oxidation level goes down to about between 700 and 900 feet.
Wow, that possibilities for some significant open pitting then, possibly.
Yes, very high, very strong possibilities of open pitting. Everything that I am seeing in the mineralization suggests that it should be amenable to heap leaching for the disseminated mineralization. There's, of course, no carbon in the volcanic units, and very importantly, there's almost no silica in the system. So there's virtually no potential for silica encapsulation in the system, which is an extremely enviable position to be in.
Sure.
Many systems have problems with silica encapsulation.
Sure, indeed. Well, metallurgy is always a key, and that you'll learn more about, but it sounds good at this point. Robert, this is a very exciting project, no doubt about it. $27 million U.S. million-dollar market cap. This is a baby company. If you're really onto something significant here, in a bull market, it's hard to see how these shares don't go much higher. That's my view. That's why I own them. That's why they're in my newsletter. Anything else you'd like to add today before we conclude our discussion?
Well, yes, we've just this last week finished the gravity survey, the air mag survey, and the airborne radiometric survey. All of those are currently being modeled. We'll announce the results of that as we get it. But that is going to help us target the larger district scale potential on the property, and so you'll see us starting to step out into some of these newer and more distant target areas that I've mentioned. So I think we'll see a lot more exploration going on and getting very aggressive over the next months and the next year especially. If everything goes very well, we might be in a position to initiate a resource estimate by year end. Oh,
terrific. All right. Well, it really is an exciting story. Thanks so much for being with us again, Robert, and we'll look to keep up with you going forward.
Okay, Jay, thank you very much.